Born to Swim the Sky. Chapter 1, Born to Swim the Sky. When I opened my eyes for the first time, I was floating. Not on water, not on air, but on something that felt like both and neither. It cradled me with a softness I couldn't name. Above me stretched a vast, shimmering expanse of pale blue, dappled with slow-moving wisps of white, clouds, I would later understand, though they looked more like gentle fish in a sleeping sea. There was no up, no down. No gravity pulling me, no ground to stand on. Just me, suspended in a weightless drift, surrounded by silence so complete it rang like a distant melody. I didn't remember a beginning, nor did I know where I was meant to go. But within me, like a soft, constant pulse, there was one certainty: I was born to swim. My arms moved without thought, carving through the sky as if it were warm, clear water. Each stroke was effortless, guided by an instinct as old as breath. I didn't question it. I let my body respond to the invisible current that nudged me forward, through veils of glowing mist and soft ribbons of breeze. I passed through a flock of glimmering feathers that shimmered and scattered like silver leaves. They spun around me, tickling my skin before disappearing into the folds of the sky. In the distance, something pulsed, a slow, rhythmic light, like the heartbeat of the world itself. Time moved differently here. Or maybe it didn't move at all. The sun didn't rise or fall, it simply hovered, glowing with a golden patience. Shadows were soft and long, like the gentle sighs of something dreaming nearby. And I swam. I don't know how long I moved through that gentle blue. Hours, days, lifetimes. The sky was endless and kind, and I never felt the urge to measure its passing. I wasn't alone, though I met no other souls. The wind spoke in long hushes, brushing against me like a mother's hum. Sometimes, I thought I could hear words in it. Not sentences, just feelings: forward, safe, remember. I found myself humming back, a quiet tune that matched the rhythm of my strokes. It wasn't a song I had learned. It felt more like a lullaby the sky had once sung to me, long before I could understand sound. The melody came from somewhere deep inside, a gentle echo of something older than memory. And then, I saw it, a shape in the distance, faint and flickering. It looked like a staircase made of clouds, spiraling upward into a place the sun didn't touch. As I drew nearer, I realized it wasn't a staircase at all, but a current, an upward drift of wind that shimmered like crystal. I followed it, letting it lift me higher and higher, until the air grew thin with wonder. I passed through layers of color: lavender, silver, the softest greens and blues I had never seen before. Each one whispered something new: fragments of dreams, stray memories not my own, images of gardens that never withered, of birds with lanterns tied to their wings. There was peace in the ascent, and yet a quiet yearning, too. As if something waited just above the veil, just past my next breath. I closed my eyes and drifted, letting the sky pull me deeper into itself. Eventually, I came upon a pool. A floating pond suspended in the sky, its surface rippling without wind. I hovered above it, then dipped below. The water, or what felt like water, welcomed me as an old friend. It didn't chill or resist. It listened. And as I swam beneath its mirrored surface, I saw glimpses of something: a shell, a key, a pair of wings folded neatly beside a glowing compass. When I surfaced again, the sky was changing. Not in color, but in feeling. The silence became softer still, like a whisper drifting through pillows. The light, though steady, seemed to hum at a slower rhythm. I felt it, too. My arms moved less often, my breathing became deeper, my thoughts trailing like slow clouds behind me. I floated on my back, watching the shapes above me drift. Some resembled whales, vast and silver. Others were like jellyfish, their tendrils of vapor trailing below them, catching the light. None of them saw me, or if they did, they offered only stillness in return. It was then I realized something new. The sky, for all its softness, had structure. Invisible paths and buoyant roads curved beneath its softness. I had been following one all along, unknowingly. It carried me past invisible markers, glows, shifts in temperature, the gentle weight of air that grew thicker when I was near something important. I began to wonder, was I meant to find something? Or was swimming itself the purpose? A soft glimmer below answered me. It was a shape, long and slow-moving, like a ribbon unrolling in the wind. I followed it, diving down through the layers of pale sky, deeper than I had dared before. The ribbon twisted and curled, always just ahead, always glowing softly with the color of old dreams. It led me to a hollow, an open bubble of still air nestled between two clouds. Inside it, a small orb floated. It pulsed gently, like a sleeping heart. I touched it, and a vision bloomed. I saw a child, not myself, but somehow familiar, standing at the edge of a cliff, gazing up at a sky filled with rivers. The child whispered a single word: begin. When the vision faded, I found myself back in the gentle drift, the orb gone, the ribbon vanished. But something remained within me, a quiet resolve. I didn't know what journey I was on, but I knew now it had a beginning. And maybe, one day, it would have an end, too. For now, I swam. The sky wrapped itself around me like a blanket made of air and memory. I let go of thought and simply floated, my limbs loose, my eyes half closed. There was nowhere I needed to be, no time I needed to keep. Only this moment, soft and eternal, drifting in the sea above the world. And the sky, like a great, slow ocean, held me there. Cradled dot. Carried dot. Calling me forward, gently, endlessly. Chapter 2, The Floating Isles of Whispering Wind. There is a moment between drifting and arriving, a gentle pause in the air, where nothing moves and yet everything changes. I felt that moment as I glided through the quiet blue. The wind had grown softer still, as if it were holding its breath. The horizon had no line, only a shift in texture, a faint shimmer that wavered like a mirage. Then, one by one, they began to appear. Islands. Not resting upon the ground, nor anchored by any tether, but floating freely in the sky like lily pads upon a windless lake. Each one different. Some small enough to lie upon with outstretched limbs. Others wide and forested, with trees whose leaves hummed when brushed by breeze. A few drifted slowly in flocks, like migrating birds, keeping close as if in conversation. I drew nearer to one, a round isle of pale lavender stone, covered in soft moss and glowing gently along the edges. I hovered above it, letting my body lower without effort, until my feet touched the surface. It didn't feel like standing. More like being gently supported by a thought. The wind returned, this time not as air, but as voice. It came from the edges of the island, from the spaces between the stones and the curve of the sky. Not words exactly, but intentions shaped like sound. "Listen," it said, in a hush that brushed my ears but left no echo. "You've swum far, but not alone." I turned slowly, expecting perhaps a companion, or even my own reflection. But there was only the island, the wind, and me. Still, I felt the presence. Like being watched with kindness. There was a tree at the center of the isle, tall, with bark that shimmered like pearl and leaves that danced in silence. I walked toward it, steps light and careful. The moss welcomed me, compressing slightly with each touch but springing back as if remembering my weight. Under the tree, I found a pool. Not water, not glass, but a circle of light that shifted with memory. I looked in and saw images forming, soft and faded like dreams returning at dawn. There was a beach, not of sand, but of feathers. A younger version of myself stood there, arms open wide, laughing as if the sky had told a joke just for me. Around me were more islands, more floating places, filled with sounds and colors I didn't yet know. But the laughter was mine. That much I knew. "These are fragments," the wind whispered again. "Left here by those who passed through." I knelt beside the pool, touching its surface lightly. It rippled in slow circles, each one releasing a tone, a clear, bell-like note that drifted upward and disappeared. I let my hand rest there, not needing to understand. Just feeling. Just remembering. Around the tree, flowers began to bloom. Not from the earth, but in the air, petals unfolding from mist, hovering softly before drifting away. One brushed against my cheek. It carried a scent I couldn't name but felt deeply familiar. A memory not of an event, but of a feeling, comfort. I lay back upon the moss, staring up into the sky. The island beneath me moved ever so slightly, part of the sky's breath. Above, other islands shifted too, their silhouettes blurred by distance, as if painted in watercolor. Somewhere among them, I heard music. Soft, slow, made from wind and time. It wasn't played. It simply was. I listened with all of myself, letting it fill the spaces between thoughts. My arms loosened. My breath slowed. My gaze softened until even the edges of the world blurred. I could have stayed forever. But the island had more to say. "Go on," said the wind. "There are others." I stood again, gently, as if waking from a nap with no dreams. I thanked the tree with a nod, unsure if it noticed, but grateful nonetheless. The path forward wasn't visible, but I knew it was there. Not a road, not a sign, just direction. Like how birds know where to fly. As I pushed off the island's edge, I rose slowly into the air, buoyed by the same invisible current that had brought me here. Below, the isle glowed once more, then slowly began to fade behind a drifting veil of cloud. I passed others. One had rivers that ran along its surface in the shape of constellations. Another held a single house, rocking slightly as if adrift on sea. One was covered in bells, silent until I passed, when they rang in perfect harmony before quieting again. None called me the way the first one did. They were for others, perhaps, or for future moments not yet arrived. Eventually, I came to a vast archipelago, a collection of isles arranged in a spiral, each with a unique color glowing from within. The wind here was thick with story, swirling gently, not pushing, but inviting. I drifted down to one shaped like a crescent moon, its surface cool and smooth beneath my feet. Here, instead of a tree, there stood a sculpture, an open hand, carved from glass, palm turned skyward. Inside its center was a small, floating flame. Blue and soft as a sigh. I approached it carefully, and the flame pulsed, then whispered. "You are the swimmer," it said, not aloud, but into my chest. "The one who moves through sky as others walk the earth. You are meant to carry the stillness between places." I didn't answer, because I didn't need to. The flame wasn't asking. It was remembering. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth of that tiny light settle into me. I felt it gather in my fingertips, in the space behind my ribs, in the long muscles of my arms. It didn't change me, it reminded me that I had done this before, that I would do it again. And then the current shifted. I felt it not in the wind but in the pause between sounds. A subtle pull. An invitation. My body responded before my thoughts did, arms rising slowly, legs folding like a bird ready to glide. I pushed off once more, leaving the island and its spiral behind, carrying the echo of its light inside me. As I swam through the vast blue once again, I didn't seek anything. I simply followed the hush. The wind around me grew even slower, like a story nearing its rest. My breaths were long and deep, and I could feel the rhythm of the sky matching my own. In the distance, I began to see something strange. Not land. Not island. Not cloud. A glow. Like the moon, but low and wide. A shimmer stretching out like a quiet field. And I knew, somehow, that this would be my next place. Where the sky deepened. Where the light bent gently. Where coral might grow, and moonlight might bloom. Chapter 3, The Moon Coral Garden. The current led me downward. The sky grew heavier here, not in weight, but in presence. It felt like silk layered upon silk, each fold darker and deeper than the last. Light still shimmered above, but it dimmed gradually, as if asking permission to rest. I followed, arms stretched loosely ahead of me, body gliding through the cool, quiet air like a fish in slumber. And then I saw them. Shapes beneath me, glowing faintly in pale blues and silvers. At first, I thought they were stars that had fallen and chosen not to return. But as I descended, their outlines grew clearer, branches, spires, clusters of delicate structure growing from the air itself. Coral. Not of stone or salt, but of cloud-light and memory. An entire reef, suspended in the deepest sky, blooming with stillness. I drifted among them. They pulsed gently, each tendril moving in rhythm with the breath of the sky. Some looked like flowers, others like lanterns. All of them radiated a soft, lunar glow, as though kissed by the moon and forever marked by her tenderness. Tiny creatures, transparent and slow, floated among the coral. They had no eyes, no voices, but I could feel their awareness. As I passed, they shifted slightly, opening paths without urgency. It was a place untouched by hurry. A garden grown not for purpose, but for presence. The coral sang. Not with sound, but with light. Colors flickered across their surfaces, soft purples, pale greens, sleepy golds, like emotions turning pages in the air. I reached out, fingers barely brushing a branch that curved like a spiral shell. The color changed beneath my touch, deepening into a calm blue, and for a moment, I felt something flow into me. A memory. Not mine. It was of a small being, curled within a shell, listening to waves it had never seen. Its world was warm, enclosed, safe. A time before movement. Before knowing. Before names. The memory faded as gently as it had come, leaving behind only a soft ache, like the echo of a lullaby. I moved deeper into the coral forest. The branches grew taller, the glow fainter, the silence fuller. There were passageways made of curved arms and hanging strands, places where the air grew so still I could hear my own breath humming in my chest. Each breath seemed to echo in harmony with the coral, as if I, too, had become part of the garden's quiet rhythm. In the center, I found the heart of it. A clearing, not empty, but open. A sphere of calm within the bloom. And there, suspended at its core, was the moon. Or something like it. A pearl, vast and luminous, not hung in the sky, but hovering just above the coral bed. Its surface pulsed with slow waves of light, each ripple like a heartbeat turned into radiance. I floated toward it, drawn by a gravity that wasn't force, but invitation. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. Instead, I let myself drift near, until I could feel the warmth it gave off, not heat, but familiarity. Like the feel of a blanket remembered from childhood, or the hush of a mother's voice in a forgotten language. It wasn't a moon. It was a memory made whole. A resting place. A reminder. The light grew softer still. My arms slowed. My breath stretched long and smooth. Thoughts thinned, spreading like mist over water. There was nothing to do. Nothing to decide. Only to be. I let my body turn gently, curling into a loose spiral, like a leaf in a slow current. The coral pulsed around me. The pearl glowed. Somewhere, very far above, the sky still shimmered. But here there was only this. A floating, endless now. And then, from the stillness, something shifted. Not broken. Not stirred. Just noticed. A presence. Like the wind's voice from the floating isles, but deeper. Older. It didn't speak. It remembered. And its remembering touched me. Visions unfolded slowly, like petals opening in the dark. I saw a swimmer much like me, though I couldn't see their face. They moved through skies older than mine, along currents I hadn't known existed. They gathered light in their hands, shaped coral from song, and whispered stories into the wind for those who came after. One of those stories was mine. Not fate, not prophecy. Just a gift, handed gently forward. The coral garden wasn't here for me. I was here for it. To drift. To remember. To carry the hush forward. The pearl pulsed once more, then slowly dimmed, not gone, just resting. Around me, the coral dimmed too, folding into darker blues and purples. Not sadness. Just night. I rose. Not quickly. Not suddenly. I rose like mist rising from still water, arms loose, eyes half closed, body guided by the rhythm I had become part of. Above the garden, the sky brightened slightly. A path revealed itself, marked not by signs, but by softness, a trail where the wind hummed more warmly, where the light curved gently toward something new. I followed it. Below me, the coral sighed. A final ripple of color, lavender and gold, brushed across the garden like a farewell. And I swam on. Upward. Forward. Without needing to know where. Chapter 4, The Echoes Below the Horizon. There is a place where the sky folds inward. Not with violence, nor with weight, but with the softness of a sigh exhaled after centuries. I found it just past the coral garden, where the light thinned and the horizon bent, not down or away, but inward, toward a place the sun never visits. It wasn't darkness I entered. It was silence. A silence so complete, I could feel it wrap around my body like silk. The kind of quiet that presses gently against your skin, not to keep you out, but to hold you in. Even my own heartbeat, so slow and distant now, seemed to belong to someone else, an echo left behind like a shell on a tideless shore. Here, in this hushed and folded sky, I began to descend again. Not swimming now. Not quite. More like sinking, but willingly. Each breath slower than the last, each movement soft as a leaf drifting in dusk. Below me, a layer of mist unfolded, not gray, not white, but colorless. It moved like breath on glass, rising and vanishing all at once. And within it, something shimmered. I passed through the mist as if through memory. The air, if I could still call it that, grew cooler. Not cold, only quiet in temperature, like stepping into shade on a summer day. The world had no color here, only tone, hints of soft blues and aged silver. Shapes began to form. Not solid. Not quite real. More like impressions, smudges in the air where something once was. I saw what might have been a bridge. A bell without sound. A stairway that turned in on itself, endlessly. And then, I heard it. A sound that wasn't sound. A feeling, formed like music, but made of presence instead of note. It came from below, or from inside, or from somewhere the two met. It didn't speak words. It remembered them. The first echo drifted toward me, and I paused, floating in place as it passed through me. It was a voice. Mine, but not spoken. Just, left behind. I was here, it seemed to say. I was real. I was quiet. A memory. A fragment. A shadow of thought once released into this endless hush. And there were more. They didn't come all at once. They came gently, like stars appearing one by one in twilight. One was laughter, not loud, not joyous, but quiet and complete. Another was a single breath before a word that never came. Then a tear, silent, floating in a sky that never needed rain. None of them hurt. None demanded anything. They just were, echoes from 100 silent yesterdays, suspended like lanterns that no longer needed to burn. I moved slowly among them, letting their presence pass through me like wind through gauze. Some I recognized as my own, though I couldn't say when I had left them here. Others felt older, deeper, belonging to those who came long before I swam these skies. And then I found a shape. It was neither coral nor cloud, but something in between. A structure. A resting place. A dome, open at the top, wide and low, cradled in the folds of the mist. I drifted toward it, letting the silence guide me. Inside, everything stopped. There was no current here. No sound. Not even echoes. Only a stillness so vast, I felt myself expand within it. At the center of the dome, a mirror floated. Not reflecting me, but what I carried. I approached it, gently, and saw not my face, but moments. A memory of the coral garden. A thread of wind from the floating isles. The way my arms had moved the first time I swam. And below it all, a compass. It pulsed softly, faint and warm. A shape I hadn't noticed until now, hidden in all my drifting. It didn't point north. It didn't spin. It pulsed. Like a heartbeat. Like direction. Like longing. And with it, came the softest echo of all. You are still becoming. I let the words, or the feeling, settle into me. It didn't ask anything. It didn't require belief. It just was, and I accepted it. Then, with a breath I hadn't known I was holding, I let the mirror go. It faded. Not like light. Like breath leaving a window pane. I turned slowly, and began to rise again. The echoes didn't follow. They never had. They simply remained, suspended in this quiet below the sky, a garden of forgotten voices waiting not to be found, but to be remembered. As I broke through the upper mist once more, the light returned, just slightly. I looked behind me, but there was nothing to see. Only the feeling of having touched something vast and gentle. Something older than language. And ahead, just at the edge of color returning to the world, was a current. A slow-moving ribbon of wind and memory. I reached for it. My body responded without effort. And I swam. Upward, again. Not seeking, not chasing, just answering the call of something soft and familiar that stirred just beyond the next horizon. Chapter 5, The Sky Current That Carries Memory. Somewhere above the hush of echoes and below the shimmer of light, there exists a current that cannot be seen. It does not ripple the clouds. It does not stir the leaves of floating trees. But you can feel it, in the bend of your limbs, in the slowing of your breath, in the way your thoughts begin to drift gently backward before they fade. I found that current not by chasing it, but by surrendering. After I rose from the dome of echoes, the air around me felt thinner, softer. The world seemed to hold its breath. And in that pause, the current came. It didn't pull. It invited. It didn't flow around me. It flowed through me. I let myself fall into it, not down, not forward, just inward. My arms floated beside me, relaxed. My legs no longer kicked. I was carried. And as I moved, the world shifted. Colors returned, but slowly. Not the bold hues of waking life, but tones softened by time, like faded paintings or pressed flowers between pages. Lavender. Seafoam. Dusty rose. The air smelled faintly of distant places. Paper. Rain. Wind through curtains. Then, I began to see them. Memories, not played before me like film, but appearing as places. The first was a hallway of glass, stretching endlessly. Each panel reflected not my face, but moments I couldn't place, bare feet on soft stone, a laugh between shadows, a hand reaching toward starlight. I passed through the corridor without touching the floor, gliding gently through time's suggestion. The next place was a field, wide, with low golden grasses waving to a breeze I could not feel. In the center stood a doorframe. No door, just the frame, and hanging from it, a wind chime made of shells and glass. As I passed through, it rang, not loud, but deep. The sound seemed to settle in my chest and stay there. Every time the current shifted, I passed another place. A floating garden with no ground. A bridge made of folded letters. A spiral staircase descending into a book. Each one was familiar in the way dreams often are, half-remembered and yet unmistakably yours. I wasn't walking through memories. I was becoming them. Or maybe I already had, and the current simply reminded me of what I once carried. The wind began to hum, barely audible. It was the kind of sound that's easier felt than heard, like the low vibration of a cello at rest. Within it, words began to form, not spoken aloud, but resting gently behind my thoughts. You have always been here. Not just in this sky, but in these moments, these fragments. I was not gathering memory. I was returning to it. The current took me upward now, rising in slow spirals. I passed clouds shaped like boats, drifting silently with lanterns dangling beneath them. One bore a name I could not read, written in ink that shimmered and shifted with each angle. Another had no name at all, just a symbol, a small, open eye. As I passed it, something stirred in me. A face. A voice. A goodbye. None of it complete. All of it real. The current began to thin. I could feel it, like the last few pages of a letter. It didn't stop, only softened. A suggestion of ending, or of arriving. I floated now, no longer carried, no longer drifting. Just present. The sky around me was light again, not bright, but gentle. Like dawn filtered through soft curtains. Below, I could see the path I had taken. Not in lines or maps, but in feeling. A trail of hush. Of echoes. Of warmth. I hadn't followed a route. I had followed memory. And it had shaped the sky around me. In front of me stood a door. It was simple. Rounded at the top. Made of woven wind and old starlight. There was no knob. No hinge. No sign. But I knew, without doubt, that this was the way forward. Not because the current said so. It had already quieted. Not because I had to. There was no need. But because I was ready. And as I approached, the door shimmered slightly. Not open. Not closed. Just listening. I placed my hand upon it. There was no sound. No flash. Only a soft, warm exhale from the sky itself. The kind that carries you into dreams, not because you chase them, but because you are gently welcomed inside. The door dissolved into light. And through it, I passed. Chapter 6, Where the Sea Meets the Sky. The light beyond the door wasn't blinding. It was soft, like mist at morning, or the memory of warmth when you close your eyes and try to recall a distant summer. It didn't surround me. It held me. And I floated forward, without resistance. This place wasn't a place. It was a threshold. Not between sky and earth. Not between dreams and waking. But between now and forever, there was no ground, no wind, no direction. And yet, in the distance, far off, like a horizon that whispered instead of shone, I saw it. A line. Where the sky folded down. Where the sea of air touched something vast and still. It shimmered faintly, like moonlight resting on the edge of a sleeping world. I moved toward it. Slowly. Without effort. My arms moved not because they needed to, but because they remembered how. With each stroke, the sky around me grew quieter, more whole. Even the gentle hum of the currents I had once followed began to fade, not vanish, but settle. I was no longer swimming to somewhere. I was returning. Then I saw them. Not people. Not shadows. But traces. Like footprints made of starlight, floating lightly in the air ahead. Dozens. Hundreds. Each one glowing faintly, as if warmed by memory. All moving in the same direction. All swimming. I followed them, not because I had to, but because I understood. Each trace held a story. Some heavy with longing. Some soft with joy. Others, quiet with peace. None rushed. None turned back. They were not searching. They were arriving. The closer I came to the line where sky met sea, the more the world began to blend. The sky thickened beneath me, like water becoming real. And the sea above me, yes, above, began to thin, like breath fading into mist. I had always known this place, somehow. Even before I swam. Even before I opened my eyes that first time in the endless blue. It had no name. It needed none. This was where the sea, which had always been sky, welcomed me home. At the edge, just before the moment of meeting, I stopped. I hovered. Not out of fear. Not out of hesitation. But to simply feel. The silence here was complete, but not empty. The light here was full, but not bright. It was presence. Gentle. Infinite. Still. I looked back, once. Not to measure distance. Not to count the places I had passed. But to honor them. The floating isles. The coral garden. The chamber of echoes. The current that carried memory. And the swimmer, myself, who had moved among them, unhurried, unseen, but never truly alone. I turned forward again. And slowly, I let my body drift forward, into the place where sea and sky were the same, where breath and thought and memory all melted into the same soft rhythm. There was no splash. No shimmer. No voice. Only stillness. And in that stillness, I felt it. The truth I had never needed to know in words. I was not born to seek. I was not born to reach. I was born to swim. Because swimming was being. And being was belonging. The sea and sky met gently around me. And I drifted into the center of them both. Not ending dot. Not beginning. Just, continuing. Forever carried. Forever held. Forever home.